The JonBenét Ramsey Mystery, December 26, 1996. Boulder, Colorado. A quiet, affluent community resting under a blanket of winter snow. Christmas lights still shimmered faintly from rooftops. Wreaths hung on doors. The holiday spirit had not yet faded. But inside one home on 15th Street, something had gone terribly wrong. 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey was gone. And before the sun fully rose that morning, a mystery had begun, one that would grip the entire nation for decades. The night before had appeared ordinary. The Ramsey family, John Ramsey, his wife Patsy, their 9-year-old son Burke, and young JonBenét, had attended a Christmas gathering. By all accounts, the evening was festive and uneventful. They returned home. They went to bed. Nothing seemed unusual. But sometime before dawn, Patsy Ramsey descended the staircase, and noticed something that would change everything. 3 pages. Handwritten. Laid carefully on the stairs. A ransom note. The message claimed JonBenét had been kidnapped. The writer demanded $118,000 for her safe return. An oddly precise number. Strikingly close to John Ramsey's recent Christmas bonus. The note warned the family not to contact police. Yet at 5:52 a.m., Patsy dialed 911. Her voice shook with panic. "We have a kidnapping. My daughter is gone." Inside the house were John Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey, and Burke Ramsey. Police officers arrived within minutes. But in those crucial early hours, decisions were made that would later be heavily scrutinized. Officers initially treated the case as a kidnapping. They believed JonBenét had been taken from the home. They conducted only a limited search. Friends and family were allowed inside to offer support. The house became crowded. The scene, unknowingly, became compromised. Fingerprints overlapped. Items were moved. Potential evidence was disturbed. Time passed. Hours slipped away. And still, no kidnapper called. By early afternoon, nearly 8 hours after the frantic 911 call, a detective instructed John Ramsey to conduct a more thorough search of the house. He headed toward the basement. A little used storage area. And there, in a small room at the far end, he made the devastating discovery. JonBenét was inside the home all along. She had not been taken. She had not been rescued. She was found unresponsive. Bound. Duct tape over her mouth. A cord tied around her neck. John Ramsey carried her upstairs. The nightmare was no longer a kidnapping. It was a homicide. The autopsy revealed deeply disturbing findings. JonBenét had suffered blunt force trauma to the skull. And she had been strangled. Both injuries were determined to be fatal. The timeline of those injuries, and their sequence, became one of the many unanswered questions. Forensic testing uncovered something unexpected. DNA from an unidentified male was found on her clothing. The sample was entered into the FBI database. There was no match. No suspect identified. No arrest made. Investigators turned their focus inward. There were no clear signs of forced entry. No broken windows. No obvious intruder trail. The ransom note raised immediate suspicion. It was unusually long, nearly 3 pages. The tone appeared dramatic, almost theatrical. Investigators later determined the paper and pen used to write it came from inside the Ramsey home. The note had likely been composed there. That detail changed everything. The demand for $118,000 only intensified scrutiny. Was it a coincidence? Or did it suggest someone familiar with the family's finances? Public suspicion grew rapidly. And the Ramsey family became the center of a media storm. News vans lined the street. Satellite trucks arrived. Television anchors dissected every detail. Talk shows debated the possibilities. Was it an intruder? Or an inside job? Speculation spread that JonBenét's death may have been accidental. Some theorized a family member panicked and staged a kidnapping. The Ramseys denied any involvement. They insisted they were innocent. Years later, advances in DNA testing would lead prosecutors to formally clear the Ramsey family as suspects in 2008. But the damage to their public image had already been done. Investigators explored numerous leads. One individual examined was Bill McReynolds, who had portrayed Santa Claus at a Christmas event attended by the family. His proximity to the case drew attention, though no evidence conclusively tied him to the crime. Another name that surfaced was Gary Oliva, a convicted offender whose background raised concern. Yet again, no definitive link could be proven. Then, nearly 10 years after the crime, another dramatic development unfolded. In 2006, a man named John Mark Carr emailed authorities claiming responsibility. He described details of the crime and expressed remorse. He was arrested overseas, extradited to the United States. For a moment, it seemed as though the mystery might finally be solved. But DNA testing once again delivered a crushing blow. His DNA did not match the evidence. His confession contained inconsistencies. Charges were dropped. Case remained open. As time passed, even the DNA evidence itself came under debate. Some experts suggested the unidentified male DNA could have been transferred during the manufacturing process of the clothing JonBenét wore. If true, it might not belong to the perpetrator at all. That possibility deepened the uncertainty. Was the DNA the key? Or a misleading fragment? Nearly 3 decades later, the question remains unanswered. Inside the Ramsey home on that winter morning in 1996, confusion and fear had ruled the hours. Burke Ramsey, only 9 years old, reportedly asked his mother if his sister was coming back. Patsy tried to remain hopeful. Investigators questioned the family gently, asking what they remembered from the night before. Small fragments surfaced: a red dress with sparkles, Christmas memories, ordinary family moments that now felt impossibly distant. Outside, reporters waited in the cold. Helicopters circled above. The private tragedy of one family had become a national spectacle. As investigators worked through the home, a composite sketch was developed based on reported sightings of a man in the neighborhood. Tall. Dark hair. Distinctive jacket. But no arrest followed. No definitive suspect emerged. Years turned into decades. Technology advanced. Evidence was retested. But the central question never changed: who killed JonBenét Ramsey? The case reshaped the relationship between media and criminal investigations. It highlighted the fragility of early crime scene management. It exposed how public perception can solidify long before facts are confirmed. And above all, it left a family, and a nation, without closure. Today, the house in Boulder still stands. The snow still falls in December. Christmas lights still glow in winter windows. But for many, December 26th will always carry a shadow. The murder of JonBenét Ramsey remains officially unsolved. No one has been convicted. No definitive truth has been established. What began as a reported kidnapping became one of America's most haunting cold cases. A 6-year-old child. A ransom note. A basement discovery. And decades of unanswered questions. Some mysteries fade into history. Others refuse to be forgotten. The name JonBenét Ramsey still echoes in true crime discussions. In documentaries. In investigative debates. In the quiet hope that someday, science, or a long-hidden confession, may finally bring clarity. Until then, the case remains open. Justice remains unresolved. And the question still lingers in Boulder, Colorado: what really happened that night?